Welcome back to segment 3 of In the Spotlight. It's Kathleen Murphy and Jeannie Ives here, and we're back with you. And on the line with us is Derrick and Cedra Crenshaw. We're going to be talking to them about critical race theory and what's going on in their school district. But first, before we get to that, it's very encouraging that there is now a lawsuit filed in the state of Illinois. It's Dunbar versus Evanston-Skokie School District 65. And in this lawsuit, it talks about the battleground for the future of the American Republic is in our schools. K through 12 schools across our nation are replacing traditional education with race-based programming in the name of equity. And in this lawsuit, it says for years, Evanston-Skokie School District 65 has been forcing its teachers to participate in, teach their students, and observe programming that discriminates against individuals on the basis of the race. Southeastern Legal Foundation filed a historic lawsuit on behalf of Ms. Dunbar, a teacher, a drama teacher in that school district. In the lawsuit, SLF now asks the court to halt the district's discriminatory practice, which violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment and Title VI of the Civil Rights Act because they treat people differently solely based on the color of their skin. Now, listen to this. Once District 65 indoctrinated the teachers, here's an example, first of all. The District 65 has openly declared its commitment to focusing on race as one of the first visible indicators of identity. Put into practice, the district demands that nearly every policy, teacher training session, and lesson plan focus on racial identity. For example, the district required its teachers to attend mandatory anti-racist training that included segregating teachers into racially exclusive affinity groups, requiring them to engage in racial discrimination against each other. They had mandatory privilege walks where they were segregated by their color. They were conditioned to see each other's skin color first and foremost. Then, the teachers weren't enough. The District 65 indoctrinated the teachers with the divisive, hateful, and racist lessons. Then it moved on to students. District 65 segregated students into racially exclusive affinity groups.
Oh, my God.
They required students to participate in racially segregated privilege walks of their own. And they gave students race surveys. In its curriculum,
how does this advance us? I
don't get it. We're thrilled that the Southeastern Legal Foundation is taking on this case right here in the state of Illinois, right here in Evanston. When I spoke with the Kimberly Herman, who is with SLF, she's the general counsel there. I spoke with her today on an earlier radio program, and she said that parents are wanting to join this lawsuit too. So,
of course,
Derrick and Cedra, okay, you're a public school teacher, Derrick. You're right here in the suburbs of Chicago. You know that this is happening as well in your school district, and you guys actually both went to your school district to discuss this. What happened?
Yeah, so this goes back about 10 years ago. Cedra saw this coming into our previous district, Valley View, and, she fought it at the school board level, and we basically ended up just moving out of there before our kids went to high school. The training has been here in Glenbard for the past few years, and so my goal was to just expose to the board that it's very divisive, and some of the teachers are just, it's really a waste of time. They're going, ours wasn't mandatory, kind of mandatory if you weren't tenured, and kind of mandatory just you would be stigmatized if you didn't do the training if you were a young teacher. So when we went to the training, we also were segregated by race, and that really turned off some of my colleagues. So I've been kind of fighting back just at the school level for the past few years. So at the school board, I want to point out to them how they're using sloppy analysis and superficial data to change all these policies. Like almost every policy is related to EOS right now. The teachers, a lot of teachers aren't doing their job because they don't want to be accused of being a racist. And then one thing I wanted to point out at the school board when I ran out of my 3 minutes was the aspects of white culture that there were at the back of our training, and it was like self-reliance, action-orientated, being polite, adherence to rigorous time schedule, plan for the future. I mean, just absolutely nutty assumptions that no other person other than Caucasians have those successful aspects in their brain, in their life. So it's just crazy. So, Cedra?
My my purpose for speaking at the school board was more so from the standpoint of being a parent and seeing how through the years they have instituted all this programming, which is so-called based on equity, but it really is based on critical race theory, which is literally segregating students for what they call achievement summits. So they have achievement summits for African American students, and then they have an East Achievement Summit for Latino students. Now they had to make the clarification that, well, any student can go to any of these events, but still they segregate these achievement summits based on race, as opposed to having one achievement summit, maybe that spans several days, for all students, where they don't emphasize race, but they emphasize achievement and excellence.
And they emphasize Latin X, so you can see there's a political...
Oh, of course.
And then I also brought up the fact that as part of their equity initiatives, they're basically teaching the students to be left-wing political activists.
Yep.
And how do I know that? They have workshops titled, Historical Perspectives and Race, Civil Rights and Social Justice, Becoming an Ally and Advocate, an Anti-Racist Action Plan. Now, we all know that Ibram X. Kendi is a huge proponent of anti-racism. He wrote the book on it, How to Be an Anti-Racist, and anti-racism is racism. And I pointed that out at the meeting, that anti-racism is basically anti-white racism.
Cedra, go ahead.
Did they listen?
I also pointed out that this type of teaching from people like Kendi and other anti-racists, it teaches the kids that America's irredeemably racist. It teaches that capitalism is racist, and basically anyone who doesn't support this left-wing political ideology is a racist. And I asked my school board, where is the counterbalance to this? Because omitting alternative viewpoints is indoctrinating students, not educating them.
Cedra,
and it also
yes.
One of them. Just real quick, they also teaches that you've been colonialized, or you're a sellout, or you're acting white if you don't agree with their philosophy.
Right. It's a trap. So one of the main criticisms of opponents of critical race theory and equity programs is that they can't define it. This is a media narrative that's been pushed. Can you define critical race theory?
Yeah, critical race theory is a worldview, and it's based on critical theory, and it has 4 key propositions. Now, I'll go backwards in just a second, but let me go forward with the 4 key presuppositions of critical race theory. First of all, it presupposes that racism is normal, and it's everywhere, and it's structural, and it does not require individual conscious racists. Okay? And we've all seen that, where everything is racist. That is a tenet of critical race theory. Secondly, convergence theory. They claim that whites will only undo racism when it benefits them. So, in effect, whites cannot act righteously when it comes to matters of race.
Because of their skin color. Yeah.
Right. Think about all of the abolitionists, all of the people who helped to end slavery that happened to have white skin. This is incredibly racist. Okay. Third, anti-liberalism. And this means they question and even reject the very foundations of our liberal order, which includes equality theory, the fact that we propose that all people should be created equal before the law and given equal opportunities. They reject legal reasoning, they reject Enlightenment rationalism, and they reject neutral principles of constitutional law. They reject the foundations of our government. That's terrifying. And fourthly, they believe that knowledge is socially constructed. And that's why they elevate storytelling and narrative over objective truth. And I'm sure we've all heard phrases such as elevating the voices of the marginalized or elevating Black voices. We've heard this phraseology, and that comes directly from critical race theory. So let's go backwards. And very quickly, Karl Marx proposed the paradigm of the oppressed and the oppressor. And he based his paradigm on workers versus the industrialists, or the capitalists, if you will. So from that base, Antonio Gramsci, who was an Italian Marxist, he developed the idea of the hegemony. And the hegemony is the idea that there is this oppressive group that is forcing their ideology on the rest of society. From there, we go to the Frankfurt School, a group of German Marxists who developed conflict theory. They developed critical theory, which is based on conflict theory. And critical theory assumes that structures must be the cause of inequity. Okay, so all of this is the base or the foundation of all of these critical studies that you hear. Critical legal studies, critical gender studies, critical African American studies, or critical Black studies. And from critical legal studies, we birth critical race theory. So I know that's kind of long, but when talking about critical race theory, we really have to understand where it comes from and the presuppositions it's based on in order to, in my opinion, effectively argue against any merit of it.
Absolutely.
So what's their end game? What's their end game here? What is their end game? It's obviously control and power. And if they can make people feel bad about themselves, then they can control their activity in the future. If they can make people feel like they're victims, then they can, and they put out this entire theory. Then the oppressors who will have to take care of the victims, and when you do that, it's a redistribution of wealth and power and jobs and everything else. And so it's about power and control, because if you can control the populace by canceling those who speak out, then you can control what happens in government further. And it's protecting their elitist status. It's not bringing up people who did not have socioeconomic privilege. I'm not talking about white privilege. It's not about bringing them up. It's about having the elitists control everything going forward. That's their end game, in my opinion. What do you think?
But we can. So that's where Cedra is really read, like she's read Ibram X. Kendi's book, White Fragility, and she's really dug down deep in those. I come at it at the different perspective is that's their theory, and their theory is using disparities. But their analysis and their data is so superficial, and it just doesn't make any sense. So I like to look at the data that they're using. So, for example, they'll say, well, 50% of the Black kids are failing, okay? Then I'll say, well, how many kids is that? It's 10 total kids. So that's 5 out of 10. And then 5 of the kids may have just come into the district from, Chicago. So their data, all the data they're using, it's totally slanted and flawed. And I think a lot of liberal teachers, actually, when we dig down deep into the data, we can disprove a lot of their disparities dealing with discrimination. And, because there's other evidence out there that they don't want to account. We have administrators, very few teachers, I would say less than 20 or 30% are really true believers in this.
Yeah.
But they get the superficial data, and if you see 50% of your Black students are failing or Hispanics, these people mean well and want to do well for the kids, so they buy into this because who doesn't want so-called equity? They even change the language.
But I'm sorry,
that.
The minute you tell me that Blacks go to this room and whites go to that one is the minute I walk out the door. Yeah. I walk out of the door. I'll say, I'll see you in court. And I'm not pro-teacher unions, but I call my union rep and I say, the hell it's going to happen on my watch. Why is that not happening? Why is that not happening?
Well, I'm glad it happened up to Evanston.
Yes.
the training that we had, they had a number grid, and then they had people sit at different tables, and that turned a lot of people off.
I can imagine.
But walk out en masse. 80% of you guys walk out. They have nothing. They can't do anything.
Well, you know, like I know, it's a lot of people that don't have the courage to do that. So that's one of our initiatives, or at least my initiative. I text 23 teachers trying to get them to speak up about these issues, and I think I've got 3 texts back.
Derrick, what has been the reaction? Because you have been one of the you've been really a vocal opponent of this, and you haven't hidden it. What's been the reaction among your colleagues to you?
Well, I think at South, when I was really a part of the union, I would keep things level, but since I've kind of left them, new voices have come in, because our union, you think about this area, 10 years ago was not Sean Casten's area, if you know what I mean.
Right.
So those members have retired and moved on, so the union membership has got younger, and the teachers' colleges have been just bombarding these millennials' brains with this stuff. Mm-hmm. And again, I think they're just do-gooders. They think they're helping these kids, but in the end, they're really harming them, because when they leave us, they don't have the skills that they need to be successful, because you're telling them you don't have to be on time, you don't have to be polite. This stuff is absolutely crazy. Some just totally reject it. Others they're just keeping their head down. But I think we're to a point now, there's no way you can keep your head down anymore.
No.
So I think we're going to get more people speaking up, because across the country is going on, across other school boards is going on. And I'm just going to work on some people, and if they don't want to come aboard, then I don't have time for them to come to me and complain, because I'm not their daddy. I'm not taking care of them. So if they don't step up to the plate, yeah, they're going to be my colleagues, but I don't have time for them.
All right.
Well, great. Well, we appreciate the pushback that you're providing, and it's probably. It's intimidating for average citizens to go and speak before their school board. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. There's nothing special about these school board members. A lot of times, you as a resident,
unimpressive groups.
They are completely unimpressive. They have all the insider knowledge, but they need to hear from you. So you shouldn't be intimidated. But Derrick, in your case, you're also a teacher in the district, and you went and you spoke in front of them. So your courage is an example to be followed. Mm-hmm. And Cedra, I mean, your knowledge of this issue is above mine. I mean, it's amazing what you just gave us.
Thank you for being in the fight.
And people should save this podcast, and if they want a distillation in just about 5 minutes about exactly what CRT is, they need to go back and listen to what Cedra said this whole time. So thank you so much for coming on our podcast, explain this a little bit further, and for your fight in this district. Yes.
I just want to mention the Washington, D.C. high school, Dunbar, from the 1880s to 1955. Mm-hmm. If people would go and research that school and see the test scores and the high achievement and all the kids that went to college during a time when the country was systematically racist, that pretty much disproves all of the stuff that's going on today. Because when the country was segregated by race, Jim Crowism and all that stuff, these kids succeeded. I mean, PhDs came out of this school, and there's a whole lot of other schools.
And this was an all-black school.
This was an all-black school in Washington, D.C., and there are others. And I tell people all the time, my dad, his wife, went to a school, Dunbar High School, Alabama. They used the whites' old textbooks, but they got a better education than all 4 of my siblings coming out of CPS. And thank God me and my sister got out of CPS before she went to high school and when I was in 4th grade. But this has been done before.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Marvin College on the west side of Chicago. This has all been done before. This is all a fallacy. These kids today, my grandfather, great-grandfather, they would beg to have been born at this time. It is just crazy what's going on.
Yeah.
So that's what, I wanted to get that out there to the school board, because it's all a fallacy. It is just, it's unbelievable that we're doing this. Well, Barack Obama said, we're 90% there. 12 years ago. You know, we are there. We are there. Has racism, sex, all those stuff ended? No, and it never will. But nothing is stopping an individual from succeeding in this country.
Yes.
You know, and these people are making it like you can't live next door.
It's like they're trying to undo all the progress that we've made over the last 70 years.
And that's part of the plan. It's all part of the Marxist plan to destroy the country. I'm sorry, and if people don't wake up to it.
Yeah. And can I just echo to that really quick and to what you also said, Jeannie? Now is not the time to be silent. We need people to stand up and be courageous and speak up however they can, because literally the foundations of our country are at stake. That is not being hyperbolic in any sense. Okay? And we know that. We just need more people to actually take action, whatever that may mean for you. Nobody can sit on the sidelines right now who loves our country and the foundations of our country. So thank you for having us on.
Thank you.
We love you guys.
It is an
Thank
honor to call you friends, and please keep it up. You guys are tremendous, tremendous patriots, and we appreciate all that you're doing.
Yep.
And so do many others, so keep it up. Thank you so much.
We like to say real quick, thanks for you two guys and your organization, because there has not been an organization in this state that's a fighter. And that's why the state has gone down.
Thank you.
Well, we're going to put in the fight. I will not surrender to these Marxists.
That's for sure.
All right.
Awesome.
Have a great day. Thank you so much for being on with us.
All right. Thanks.
Bye, guys. Bye.